We're happy you join us to our show, Freedom of Speech. This is the show that will give you real Israeli news, not fake news that you can hear somewhere else, but the real news from Israel. Usually with me is Kobi Applebaum, but he's not here today, so I will be giving you the topics alone. Later on this show, we'll have a special segment of this channel, Axdut וגאולה, that will interview Rabbi Yossi Zalikovsky, that Alisa, one of our hosts, will interview him and try to help and raise donations for the Jewish community in Houston, Texas, that has been suffering from the storm there. But before that, we have some very, hardcore news for you today that I'm sure you won't hear anywhere else. So our first topic is something that made quite a storm today in Israel. A golden statue of the president of the Supreme Court, Miriam Naor, was stated today in the Jerusalem court. The people who put it there are the organization that's called Way of Life and the organization of the Hebrew City, which I'm the CEO of. That made quite a storm, and it came right after the Supreme Court has decided to rule out once again sending the illegal infiltrators from Eritrea back to their countries. The residents of South Tel Aviv have went out to a protest 2 days after the president of Miriam Naor of the court has decided to finally release the decision. And again, we were all disappointed that once again they took the law that the government made and just ruled it out. So the statue was standing there today, made quite a storm. All the, lefty media decided to, how can you hurt the Supreme Court, the biggest justice of this country? How can you do it? The activists that were there were arrested for really a short amount of time because there's nothing wrong with putting an art, statue of someone. But what did it really want to say? It wanted to say that, we have a democratic country. Obviously, you all know. We have a government that the people went out to choose, a government that's supposed to implement the laws that she was chosen for. But instead of that, what's been happening in the last few years is that there isn't even one law that can be passed before it will pass the criteria, the hardcore lefty, radical left criteria of the Supreme Court. And this is something that just can't continue to happen because those people in the Supreme Court, those elitist people who sit there in the ivory buildings, completely detached from the country, completely detached from the people, live in a very sheltered, very full life. They don't know what's going on in South Tel Aviv. They don't know what happens in different neighborhoods around the country that were completely occupied by illegal infiltrators. By the way, when I say occupied, I'm not talking about the occupation that the left invented. I'm talking about the real occupation, the illegal infiltrators' occupation of many, many neighborhoods around this country. We're talking about illegal infiltrators who conquered everything, starting from their identity, going to the actually Jewish majority, taking the territory of the Jewish people that were living there, causing a Jewish runaway from inside the neighborhoods, many neighborhoods like South Tel Aviv, a neighborhood in Ashdod, in Rishon, in Haifa, in Netanya, many places that basically just gave up. Why did they give up? Because they have no voice, because no one hears them. I have to tell you, this court ruling was sitting in the courthouse for 4 years. 4 years they took to decide. After 2 years, the district court has decided to approve it because you really can send illegal infiltrators not just back to their countries, but to a third safe place because they claim they're refugees, right? But even though it was really approved in the district court, right after that, the left NGOs that are funded by the New Israel Fund by the millions and many anti-Semitic groups immediately appealed back to the Supreme Court, and it took them 2 years. But only 2 days after we rallied against the Supreme Court President, Miriam Naor, 2 days after she finally released it. Although everyone knows it was prepared and sitting. What she did is a torture of justice to the residents of South Tel Aviv. What she did is she disrespected the Jewish people who are literally living under hell. They can't leave their house. They're being suffered by sexual harassments. They suffer by violence from the infiltrators. They suffer thefts and robbery and real hell on earth over there. Listen, I need to tell you that me and my NGO, the Hebrew City, has been fighting for the last 6 years to get a real solution from the country. And each time our government formed a rule to try and take those illegal infiltrators back, Supreme Court kept canceling it, changing it, making it so stirred that it can't even move along and actually made an impact. You know, it's really funny. Those illegals claim to be refugees. They claim they have some war in Eritrea. Although all of the decisions up until now around the world have really proved that there isn't refugees in Eritrea. You know, the UK have sent a delegation to Eritrea for over 1.5 years, and she came under Theresa May, the current Prime Minister. And they came with one conclusion and one conclusion alone. There are no infiltrators in Eritrea. Even the biggest high human rights court in Switzerland have decided that Eritreans are not valid to be in Eritrea. We have an ambassador here in Israel. We have an Israeli ambassador in Eritrea. We have diplomatic relations. And even though they don't hold the UN criterions for being real refugees, they still claim they're refugees and are still enjoying from the left, hugging them and bluffing about them and making all these lies. So now they said they're not feeling safe in Eritrea. So our Prime Minister went out to Uganda and Rwanda and made pacts with them. You can go back to a third country. But oh no, the illegal Africans don't want to go back to Africa. They want a visa to Canada. They want a visa to Italy. They want a visa to France. They want the classic Europe. Africans just don't want to go back to any place of Africa. Come on, these are not real refugees. This is a bluff. This is another way of the radical left to try and change the real Jewish character in this country. And it's time to put an end to it. It's time to move along and say, we have chosen our people, our members of the Knesset to defend us. And if you can't do it, then accept this statue of gold and admit that there is a real ruler of this country. And it's not you, the members of the Knesset or the Prime Minister. I really hope that something will change and will change soon, because we are reaching the no return point. Our next topic is actually our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He decided to come to South Tel Aviv today after 7 years of the hell that the Southern Tel Aviv people has gone through. Bibi Netanyahu, after the last decision of the court, decided to come today and basically tour South Tel Aviv and meet the residents. We're going to show you now a little clip of me, Gולן, meeting Benjamin Netanyahu and talking to him today, and I will tell you a little bit more about it after.
ראש הממשלה, שמי גולן. אני נולדתי וגדלתי והתחנכתי פה בתחנה המרכזית הישנה בתל אביב כל חיי. והיום אני מרגישה כאילו הבית הוא לא שלי. אני לפני 4 שנים עברתי ניסיון תקיפה, ניסיון אונס על ידי 2 מסתננים, ששרדתי אותו באחד הניסים וההשגחות הפרטיות הכי גדולות שעברתי בימי חיי. במקום לקחת את זה למקום כואב, הפכתי את זה למקום של כוח. הפכתי את זה למאבק שבו עצרתי את כל החיים שלי מאז, ואני נאבקת אך ורק בזה. כל מה שעשיתי שמתי בצד. רוב המאבק שלי לא התחיל בגלל התקיפה שלי מהראש הממשלה, הוא התחיל בגלל אמא שלי, בת ה-71, שיושבת פה, אמא תקום, השאירה אותך, שיושבת כאן, אמא חד-הורית, שקנתה את הבית הזה בדרום תל אביב, בשדרות הציון, בדם יזע ודמעות, גידלה אותי לבד, וזה בית ראש הממשלה שאהבנו, זו שכונה שאהבנו. אני גדלתי על ברכי בית הכנסת שלה, אני גדלתי עם אהבה לשכונה הזאת. אמנם לא היינו הכי עשירים, לא היינו אחים מיוחדים, אבל היה פה ביטחון, היה פה טוב, הייתה פה שכונה. היום ראש הממשלה, האישה הזאת חיה בגטו. היא חיה בגטו של שנת 2017, היא מגורשת מהבית שלה. כל הבניין שלה מלא דירות של מסתננים, הוא מחולק, היא הותקפה לא פעם, והאישה הזאת צריכה לעלות כל יום שאומרים לה אריתראי, תחזרי למרוקו, תחזרי לתימן, תחזרי לרוסיה. זו לא המדינה שלך. זו לא המדינה שלך כמו ראש הממשלה. אני מבקשת ממך, אתה תצא לפה היום, אבל אתה לא תראה את המציאות של מה שעוברים תושבי דרום תל אביב. אתה לא תרגיש אותה כי אי אפשר להרגיש אותה עד שלא חיים פה. אנחנו נכבשנו.
איפה הבית שלו?
אמא.
שדרות הר ציון 12.
ממש של מולטינת לוין.
שדרות הר ציון 12?
קומה רביעית.
אז מה, אתם לא יכולים להעביר אותי לשדרות הר ציון 12?
אדוני ראש הממשלה, אני לא...
אם תראה את
אנחנו רוצים
הבניין...
להביא אותך לרחוב
מה ראש...
תודה, בואו נמשיך עם
כן, אני מסיימת. מה ראש הממשלה, אם תראה את הבניין שלה, אני מבטיחה לך שלא תישן בלילה, לא תוכל, זה בית אימים. ואני רק אסיים בזה, שפה ראש הממשלה זה הכיבוש האמיתי, לא הכיבוש שהשמאל מדבר עליו. פה כובשים את הזהות שלנו, את היהדות שלנו ואת הצביון שלנו. פה לא השאירו אנשים לחיות בצורה נורמלית, זה גיהנום. ואנחנו מקווים שתצא מפה היום ותגיד לבג"ץ שיפסיק להשליט את מדיניות הטרור שלו. פשוט יפסיק. תודה רבה.
תודה, מאי. בבקשה, מסלול.
For those of you who didn't understand, the Hebrew and what I was talking about, I will tell you a little bit. I stood in front of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and I told him that 4 years ago I've experienced almost a rape incident by 2 Eritreans. I was luckily saved when 2 Eritreans attacked me brutally, tried to rape and beat me, but I was able to flee and run away back to my home. This is not when my fight started, though. My fight started when I saw my 70-year-old mother living in her house, unable to walk freely in the neighborhood, unable to go out of her house. And when I was pointing in the video, I was pointing at my mom. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asked her, where do you live? And he couldn't believe she lived right in South Tel Aviv. He offered right after to come and visit her house. And we left there. As you can see in this picture, he holds my mom's hand. My mom is wearing the white shirt. He holds her hand. Over there you can see more older women standing there. And you can see next to Prime Minister Netanyahu, Miri Regev, the Minister of Culture in Israel. You can also see the Minister of Homeland, Gilad Erdan, sitting there, who put a lot of police forces in our neighborhood. When Benjamin Netanyahu held my mom's hand and walked with me and with us towards our house, which was 5 minutes from where we were standing, I just wanted him to see my mom's house, the building, how old residents really live. I truly, truly believed that once he'll see her house, he wouldn't be able to sleep at night. He wouldn't be able to think the same about the fight of the southern Tel Aviv people, about what they are going through under the vicious, vicious, cruel hand of the illegal infiltrators who really ruined every possible good land of where they came from. They ruined the building, they're sitting on the stairs, they are drunk, they are drugged, they are threatening everything. My mom stood up there and told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that when she comes up her stairs, there is an Eritrean refugee telling her, this is not your country. Go back to Yemen. Go back to Morocco. Go back to Russia. Why are you coming here? You're not originally from here. This is the country of the Africans, and we must redeem it back. It's not the country of the Jews. While she was telling it to him, she cried. She felt very bad, and he said, I have to see your house. And when we finally came to our house, in the entrance of my mom's house, we had 150 lefties standing there protesting together with Eritrean infiltrators who called me a Nazi. They called me a fascist. They called me a racist. They said, this is not your house. You go back to where you came from. The Eritrean refugees stood there together with Jews that's supposed to care for what happened to our older people, supposed to care of what happened to us. But these left radical Jews, self-hating Jews, stood there and support them against my 70-year-old mother. They called our prime minister a Nazi as well. They called him corrupted. They even compared him to, you know what, I don't even want to say it. It really shouldn't be said. But he couldn't come into the house because it's the prime minister. And he has dozens and dozens of security and guards, and he just couldn't went in. So we had to turn back. He went and visited another old woman that lived not far away, where the protesters from the left weren't standing there. I was disappointed because I really, really thought and felt that he would literally change his entire view of South Tel Aviv. Not that he wasn't supportive, but he will actually feel what is really going on in South Tel Aviv if he will see where my mom is living. I really, really hope from the bottom of my heart that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu leaves South Tel Aviv today and decide to stop this sufferment of the Southern Tel Aviv people. I really, truly believe that he did not experience what's really going on there. You know, when a prime minister comes, they clean everything for him. They took away all the Eritreans, they didn't let them in, took away all the drug addicts, took away all the prostitutes, took away every possible dirt off the floor. They put a 30,000 shekel tent over there for him to sit. And I know he's on our side, but it's not the same as feeling what's really going on there. And I'm really hoping, because he promised us he will come as a tourist. He will come in a tour when no one knows who he is. He will come at nighttime, because when you pass at nighttime in South Tel Aviv, you might not come back as a regular person of this country.
עליתי מירת בגיל 9. סבלנו הרבה עד שהגענו לפה.
Our next topic is a very painful, sensitive topic as well that I really thought was important to talk about and let the Jewish community and our supporters from around the world to know about. And this is regarding the disabled and handicapped people who have been protesting for the last year for their basic rights. We're talking about people in wheelchairs. We're talking about people who can't walk, who are really disabled and need to live off of 2,500 shekels a month. This can't happen. Our country cannot, just leave behind the people that fought for this country. Some of them are IDF handicapped people, and the people that are the weakest in our occupation. Unfortunately, we can't show you their protest, but I can tell you about it. They've been protesting in the roads. They've been stopping cars. They've been stopping the highways. They won't let people through. They are really suffering from very hardcore humiliation. And committee after committee in the Knesset is promising to solve their issue, and yet nothing happens. So from here, I call them to be strong. I want to tell them that I appreciate their fight. Watching them sitting in wheelchairs in the middle of Ayalon, in this heat of Israel that is really unbearable, sitting there and protesting to just get a minimum wage so they cannot prefer therapy and drugs over food is really heartbreaking. When the City Hall of Tel Aviv puts 150 million shekels in the illegal infiltrators, and the Prime Minister passes another 100 million, and the government passes another 50 million, all for the illegal infiltrators of this country. When we put so much money in salaries for the biggest salaries you can ever think about for our MKs, when we put so much money on budgets for this country for declarations and events, we can definitely put the money aside for the weakest link of this country, for the people who are left behind, for the people that their lives are so hard already that I don't know how this country can make it even more harder. So before we finish, I want to say thank you for you who's joined us. I hope you're commenting and sharing our channel, Axdut וגאולה, which means unity and redemption because we believe, the Jewish nation believe that being united between us is what will bring the real redemption to the Jewish people and to the world. I really hope you enjoy what we do here, because we try and bring you some real news from Israel that you won't hear someone else. So I want to thank Dalia Arazi, the woman who's been allowing all this and making it happen. She's the reason we can sit here. And I want to thank you for being with us. We are now passing on to the special segment we have prepared for you today with Alisa, that has been interviewing Rabbi Yossi Zakilovsky, the head rabbi of the Jewish community in Houston, Texas. Stay tuned with us and please help the Jewish community in Texas as much as you can. Thank you very much.
Hi, and welcome to Hot, Hip, and Now. I'm your host, Alyssa Frank. Once again, I return to the topic of now. Due to the extraordinary circumstances and the magnitude of Hurricane Harvey's destruction, I'll be following up from my last story. As it's been reported, the synagogues in Houston were all flooded out, which left the small but thriving Jewish community of Houston even more displaced. It was always a bit challenging to find kosher food in Houston. It has now become a major problem with a lack of kosher food due to the flooding. I'm on the line with Rabbi Yossi Zakilovsky, leader of the shul in Bel Air and the head of relief services for the Chabad of Houston, whose home was also flooded. He will be filling us in on all the details, as well as the outreach of the Chabad organization that's been able to, and all that they have been able to accomplish since this devastating natural disaster has struck. Hi, Rabbi. Shalom from Israel. Rabbi?
Shalom, and thank you.
Hi, I hope I did your name right. If I didn't, please correct me. I'll let you do it on your own. You want to say your name for me?
You're good.
I'm good. Okay, Zakilovsky, I got that. So I'm really sorry we have to meet under these circumstances, and unfortunately we're not able to get you some audio, but we are together on this phone. First of all, of course, how are you and your family?
We're doing okay, thank God. We did have our moments of danger.
Yeah?
On Sunday and Monday, but thank God we're out of that.
Did you have the bubbling floor syndrome, which I heard about? Did you have...
Which syndrome?
I heard that people, I spoke to an Israeli couple last night, which I talked to you about. They had the bubbling floor that had occurred. Did you have that, or did the water come through the door with you?
It did come through the door, yes. First through the back door and then through the front as well.
Wow. And how many?
We did take in about 5 inches of water from wall to wall in our ground floor of the house.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear. It's really quite devastating. Let me just start from the top, because I really think it's important that we let our audience know, for those who don't know, the incredible work of Chabad. Can you just give a little idea of what exactly Chabad is?
Chabad is a philosophy, a Jewish movement, a school of thought, and a global network of educational, religious, and humanitarian organizations.
Okay, and you're really open. I mean, this is how a non-religious Jew looks at you. You're located all over the world, and you are always there to be a warm meal and just incredible kindness, a Shabbat meal, a holiday meal, of course, too. And in a circumstance like this, you really have to come up to the plate. So you are the head of the Bel Air Shul. Is that located in the Maryland area?
Yes. If I drive about a mile from my house, I'll already be in Meyerland.
Meyerland, it's called. A mile, you said, from your house?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I'm in Bel Air, which is right next to Meyerland.
Okay, because they were hit really, really hard, I heard, and there's many homeless souls. So you must be getting a lot, because this Meyerland area is a very Jewish community, right? Am I correct?
Correct. It's the center of Houston's Jewish community, and it was devastated more than other areas. Of course, homes flooded throughout Houston. But there's definitely a concentration in this area. And unfortunately, I believe the number of Jewish homes that were impacted exceeds 1,000.
Wow. So we need you here to give us some information. Just a little bit about yourself. It's just, how many are in your family? How many kids are there?
We have 5 children.
You have 5 children to
Yeah.
the ages of what? From what age to what age?
Age 10 to age 2.
Okay. I think I read you all went to the 2nd floor, correct?
Correct. As soon as when water started coming into the house, we grabbed supplies, food, and water, and we moved it all upstairs, and that's where we hung out for about 48 hours.
48 hours. And you had already been in the rainstorm. I heard it was 2 days of crazy rain, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It started on first over Friday night, and Shabbat it kind of slowed down, and then towards evening it picked up, and overnight it was a torrential downpour.
Wow. And I know that you're used to flooding in that area, but this was very different, I'm hearing. Everybody that I've spoken to has told me about the flooding, but this seemed to like never end, I hear.
There were floods previously, even in the last couple of years. However, this one was historic. I mean, this was a rain of biblical proportions. This, as I said, torrential downpour, and it didn't stop.
Yeah, this
for days.
Historical proportion.
The Bel Air area, Meyerland, of course, has flooded in the past. Even there, it's been worse this time. But Bel Air homes typically never flooded, and this time many did. So it was even more devastating than any time in the past.
I need to really ask this. I'm sorry if it sounds petty. I hear this word Bel Air, and it brings me back to like the fancy part of Los Angeles. Is Bel Air an affluent area?
It's I wouldn't necessarily compare it to Bel Air in California.
Okay,
but,
I just had to do.
Relatively speaking, I would say it's a little more affluent than Meyerland. Not that Meyerland isn't. Bel Air just has a certain, unique character to it.
Okay, interesting. I know you're originally from Detroit. I'm originally from Bronx, New York. So we're not really used to this weather at all. So this is a whole new thing for you. Your wife, is she from the area? Or your kids are the only real Texans?
My wife is from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, so we have Brooklyn in the house too. Wow. So is your shul or your community center, is that in Meyerland?
Our shul is in Bel Air. The shul itself did not flood, thank God.
So your shul was okay. I heard every shul was underwater.
Our shul was not. It did not flood.
Wow. Well,
there were other synagogues in the area, including what's called the United Orthodox Synagogues, UOS, which was heavily flooded. I mean, there are photographs out there, and it's pretty devastating.
We see, I think it's your other rabbi. I think I spoke to him. I'm not too sure. I took some pictures. They were bringing out the Torah. I know from Corpus Christi, and I saw another Torah there was 2 pictures up on your site. There's a young guy, and I think it's the rabbi, I can't think of his name right now, who's actually...
Fagenson?
Ma? What? Excuse me?
Fagenson?
I don't know. I can't remember exactly. It was the rabbi I contacted. He was the Chabad of Houston.
In Sugarland, I know there were images of the Torah being removed from the Chabad Center in Sugarland, Texas,
wow.
Which is another area about 20 miles from there.
Okay, so let's get to sort of the grits, because I know a lot of people want to help. So what has Chabad been doing exactly? How are you helping out? Let's talk about the kosher food situation, and then we have some other, I'd like to cover some other things.
Well, immediately after the flood, what was unfolding, the needs were immediate, and the response by Chabad was immediate.
And what was that?
Chabad is an army of 15 couples here in Houston, Texas, 11 different branches. So, we're talking about people that have their boots on the ground, and people turn to them immediately when they're in need. Right. And there's a direct human connection. It's not a phone number. It's not an automated response that you have to make your selection and not speak to anyone when you actually need help. This is direct connection to the people who they're seeking help from. And the response was is the same. It's person to person, soul to soul, whatever,
So were you
whatever's
opening your
necessary. So at first, the most urgent help was literally to save lives.
Right, to rescue.
Now, largely that wasn't done by us. We leave that to those that are professional and experts. And there were thousands of rescues being done by boat. And
so tell me,
other,
what
other
Chabad
means,
did.
Rabbi,
Rabbi, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
That did rescue other people.
Rabbi,
But,
I'm
once
just going to
that
interrupt
passed,
you for a second.
The focus became on bringing kosher food to people at shelters, at hotels, wherever they were. Hot meals were being delivered by the hundreds from the first day.
Okay, so we're talking kosher food. You got food to people. Did you open your home? Were you literally, I think it was in Sugar Land or Corpus Christi, some rabbi ended up housing some people that were rescued?
Possibly in Corpus Christi.
Okay.
In my case, we lost our ground floor due to the flood.
We're showing a picture
so
of you.
Really
We're showing a
But
picture
I
of
know
you
the
on the
rabbis
screen
here.
right now, Rabbi. There's a picture of you with a group of guys with a yellow shirt and blonde hair. Is this your family, or is this?
Those were neighbors and friends who came over to our house to help clear out the sheetrock and start removing what was damaged.
Due to the mold and everything like that. Right. Okay. So.
Correct.
Also, I want to talk a little bit about the kosher food situation, what's going on. I know there was an article written, but let's discuss it a little bit more. There's a lot of pictures showing up. I would like to show them on the screen now of what the markets look like in Houston. So what's going on? The last we spoke, you said that they were shipping food from New York City, right?
Right. So of course, as you said, there was a big shortage. People weren't even able to go out and shop. Even if they could, the stores were closed. And even if the stores were open, the supply is limited, of course, when they reopen. So that's obviously a crisis. And to address that, there were trucks of food that actually had, I believe, the first already reached Houston as of last night or this morning, and many others are coming from various organizations in the New York area and beyond, which will be incredible help for a desperate situation.
Because that's kosher food. I mean, there's no kosher
Correct.
food left in Houston,
Correct.
pretty much. Okay, wow. So Shabbat is upon us. It's going to hit us before it'll hit you. Are you doing anything to organize for any Shabbat meals or any services? And if we can even get in some high holiday plans for the future, I know it's a lot to handle, but
Well,
I want to try to organize something for
High
you.
holiday, right. High holiday plans are in place, and we'll begin to address that once the more urgent things are taken care of.
Got you.
For Shabbat, most definitely. See, Chabad has a whole coordinated effort. We have one person overseeing gathering names of families and addresses of those that need volunteers to come to their house to help clean up. We have another person who is coordinating those that want to volunteer at people's homes and then pairing the two together. We have another dealing with supplies, like cleaning supplies, boxes, which are all desperately needed. Another, as we said, is overseeing the kosher food issue. So the meals that have been going out every day and continue to, as we speak, are being prepared by two Chabad centers, one in Southwest Fondren and the other one at the Texas Medical Center by the Esho House. And they are preparing meals for Shabbat as well. And anyone who needs one is able to send in a very short request,
Wow, it's
and they have them delivered.
Wow, unbelievable. We're going to get all those informations, all those links. We'll attach it to the show, and people can see all the information in case they need it or somehow want to donate. As we discussed, Rabbi, when I told you that Chabad is so dear to me, and it's so unbelievable what you do, I want to thank you. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, Grandma Lucy, was actually the personal assistant to Rabbi Hurston in Morristown. And it's just
Beautiful.
Unbelievable, the work that you do and the light upon the world that you shine. So lastly is, how can people help? We know you can donate money, everybody has a link up, but I really feel that people want to be more involved physically in organizing. And do you have any suggestions? And can people actually reach out from you? I mean, it seems like this is a global effort, as I'm from Tel Aviv, and I got immediately on the internet to look for you.
Sure. Obviously, any help is desperately needed. Those that can come in person is great. Obviously, most can't pick themselves up and get here. So for anyone else all over the world, every dollar contributed is desperately needed, and 100% of every dollar goes directly to help the people that are displaced and are in need. And to do that, I would invite your audience to go to the following website. It's chabadhouston.com/hurricane, chabadhouston.com/hurricane, and you could make your generous contribution there. And we are incredibly thankful and full of gratitude to people, Jews, non-Jews from all over the world who have reached out and are helping.
Unbelievable. Rabbi, you are pretty amazing, because I'm sure you are being inundated by phone calls. I really just want to thank you for your time. We are sending you our love and our prayers from Israel. And I know it will be a long and arduous process of cleanup and rebuilding. It's good to know Chabad is there to help us, to help all the time. And any difficult time, you just seem to be there like angels that fall upon any situation, good, bad, and indifferent. So I want to thank you, really. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Shabbat Shalom. And I shall be in touch with you, Rabbi. Toda rabba. Milev sheli, toda rabba.
Thank you. We are definitely feeling the love, and we appreciate it very much. All the best.
Toda. Thank you. Bye. Shabbat Shalom.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
And to the audience, thank you for joining me once again on Hot, Hip, and Now. And I'll see you for the next show.